Hello everybody in Amersfoort. My personal motivation for the kind of cognitive rehabilitation I'm going to explain is that from the beginning I was surprised to see that just giving a pill to a patient didn't help him with his memory. So we first tried to help them, but we know, for example, that just repetition is not enough. So what we learned was that those patients were not using the same memories they used before. And just because of that, we just decided that it was important for diagnosis to know which are the impairments in memory. But when you make a neuropsychological examination, you can see how preserved abilities are important in those patients. So the point was to tell, would it be possible to use those preserved abilities in order to help them going on with activities they like? So that's our job.
Well, I started working in this area almost by accident after I qualified as a clinical psychologist. I was expecting to work more with people recovering from brain injury, but there was a large memory clinic that had a lot of people with a diagnosis of early stage dementia, and I started working with some of them. I talked to them, I heard about their experiences, their feelings and their difficulties, and they told me about the impact all of this had on their everyday life. And I came to understand how much they wanted to try and improve the situation. I tried various strategies. At that time we were working with things like errorless learning, and I found that some of the strategies were really very effective for some people, and very strikingly, often quite a small change seemed to make a big difference. So this is really what got me started. Now, more recently, I suppose, I've become more aware of the issues around residential care and the need to use our knowledge to improve the way that care is provided in residential and nursing homes. Recently, our focus has been on developing and testing a cognitive rehabilitation intervention for people with early stage dementia living in their own homes. We ask people to identify things that cause them particular difficulty in their everyday lives and activities, and things that they would like to improve. And then we designed an intervention for each individual based on what they told us in order to tackle the issues they identified. And the participants found that their ability to carry out the activities that we targeted did improve, and they felt more satisfied with their performance.
So what we try to do is to adapt activities to the preserved activities of the capacities of the patients. So the point is that we do not have to see people adapting themselves to activities. We would like to adapt activities to what they can do.
My next aim is to carry out a larger multi-centre trial of the cognitive rehabilitation approach to provide evidence to support its use in practice. In general, with my group, we're looking at ways of using intact learning ability to help support everyday functioning and help people maintain their independence.
So there is certainly a place for non-pharmacological, for cognitive rehabilitation, and I would say in quasi each stage of Alzheimer's and disease or dementia. So the point of cognitive rehabilitation is first observing an activity, trying to put different stages in the activity and see how the people, the patient, are able to go through the different stages. Then it's important to try to find where they might have a difficulty, and the important point then is try to find how it would be possible to bypass their difficulty. So that in a sense can be made in the early stages, but you can as well just understand how things are going in later stages finally.
People with dementia have a range of relatively preserved or intact abilities alongside their cognitive impairments, and we can make the most of these in various ways, I think. But I do believe that our aim in doing this should be to support well-being and of the people with dementia and those who care for them, and I think we should go about it in a very practical way. Now, the way in which we make use of retained abilities is going to depend on various things like the severity of the dementia, the environment the person is in, and the preferences of that individual. For people with early stage dementia living at home, we can help people develop compensatory strategies to get around some of the difficulties that they experience in daily life. We can help them problem solve and find solutions to difficulties. And we certainly have methods whereby we can help people take in important information that they really want and need to know. For people moving into residential care, we can use their retained abilities to help with the transition. For example, we can teach people to know where they are, and we can help them to find their way around. We can also often use retained abilities as a way of helping with behaviour that care staff may find difficult.
Certainly, we had several points for learning people new devices. The first rule was that people had really to manipulate their cellular phone. Not only having a verbal memory, but also a motor memory, which is much more preserved in the patients. The second rule was that we decided to have several steps. So just imagine you take a cellular phone. The first thing you need to know is how to open it. Well, okay, you need to know how it is. And then after only, you need to know which kind of green button you've got to push. And then after, and only then after, you've got to know which kind of number you will have to put. But a number that's too long. So it's possible to simplify things and tell people, okay, the number 1 will be the most important people for you, your husband. The number 2, the second one, your daughter. And so what we are going to do is helping people to go through each stages. And that could take time. Sometimes you need to make real associations in order to make it familiar, routine. And that's only when one stage is acquired that you can go to the other stage. And then after, you need to explain the relatives how to use those simplified way of devices, just like the cellular phone, so that they can help again and use the new ability of our patients. An example of what we can do is, for example, to learn people how to know new names. And I will just give you an example. I had a patient who had a first grandchild and he didn't know his name. So the name was Arthur. And we asked him, well, okay, for you, what does the name Arthur mean? And for him, that was a legion of King Arthur. So we made the bridge and tell him, well, you know, finally, your grandchild is just your little king Arthur. And then he just used previous memories he had in order to learn new memory with the first name of his grandchild. So for the care industry, we know that there are first pharmaceutical possibilities, and that's important to follow. And we know there are also what we will call possibilities of having intelligent houses. The main point is that all this need to go on, but I would say that, for example, for intelligent houses and devices and electronic devices, people should work with therapeutists in the field. So people that know what happens, that know the possibilities of the patients, so that indeed we can use the technique in the way people with difficulties in memory could use them.
I think it's not just the care industry, but also the health services that need to work more with the retained abilities of people with dementia. If there was a really concerted effort right from the start to work with people's strengths and retained abilities, this could help people with dementia and their families to manage the condition better. And then this approach could follow through all the stages of care as dementia progresses. For example, if we're going to provide meaningful activities for people in residential or nursing homes, that really needs us to have quite a sophisticated understanding of both the cognitive impairments and their impact and the retained abilities that we can build on. So essentially, for me, it's a matter of introducing a rehabilitation philosophy which focuses on optimizing functioning and well-being at every stage.
In Belgium, we will have a real opportunity, and there are actually decisions made by the National Health Service to finance 12 centres all around Belgium where cognitive rehabilitation could take place. So that will be a possibility to show that the methods are correct, and also to help caregivers to understand how to modify a little bit their interaction to help their relatives in daily activities.
Well, we've seen some significant improvements in the care provided for people with dementia over the last decades, but we still have a lot of obstacles to overcome. In the early stages of dementia, a great deal of money and time is devoted to assessing and diagnosing the condition, and to prescribing and monitoring expensive medications that are realistically of limited benefit. We don't seem to devote much capacity to providing a rehabilitative approach that can build on our understanding of the pattern of impaired and retained abilities to help people manage the condition. This kind of approach is generally dismissed as being too expensive, and the fact that it might be cost-saving over the longer term, perhaps by delaying institutionalization, for example, gets ignored. Now, maybe one reason for this is that in the UK, at any rate, health services and social care services operate separately with separate budgets. For social care services, such as residential homes, they often complain of lacking access to expertise in areas like clinical psychology or occupational therapy, and they often feel they lack knowledge about the kinds of basic approaches and strategies that could be helpful. So I do believe that we still have a lot of work to do to really improve this situation.